Um, so we, my wife and I are both teachers, and so it was just coming back from winter break. We got back. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, so getting kind of back in the rhythm of school and all of it. We have a 5 and a 2-year-old also, so things were kind of normal.
Yeah.
The day before, we had just gotten a like brand new cookbook, so the kids and I we all cooked together, and it was this fun recipe, and putting it all together. And I remember taking my trash out that Monday night, being like, "My life is just great. Like this is all working so well," and like the stars up above, like walking back home, I can picture it really clearly of how we had just built this life here. And I remember being so grateful, um, so much of the time, but that night specifically. Um, my kid had, that day when we got home from school on Tuesday, um, decided to create a whole bed fort for us. So they turned their whole bedroom into this fort with all the cozy. They grabbed all the blankets in the whole house and brought them right there by the crib. So we have a bunch of crazy pictures of us just like lying around on the floor, in this bed that they had made us. And our friend had come over to play some board games, which happens all the time. So we had dinner. We were about to start getting the kids to bed, and my wife's parents live over on Eaton Canyon. So
Okay.
around 6:30, we heard that the fire had started, and she took off there, because they have different health things and concerns. So making sure that they could get out was the priority. When she got there, the firefighters were telling her to stay away, and the fire was actually in their backyard when she got there. But my friend and I just finished dinner. We cleaned up. Um, we got I'm going out of order because you had asked for the day before.
Oh, just the day leading
Yeah,
up to.
yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
Um,
Just tell it as you remember this.
for sure. Or so you can edit all sorts of
Yeah.
things. The day, that Tuesday morning on our way to work, we had noticed like the wind was about to pick up. There's stuff all over the yard. I mean, we had a play structure and a bunch of like scooters and bikes and different things, and it was just all everywhere. And we were like, ah, the Christmas tree had already flown somewhere. So I was like, okay, I'll get the Christmas tree back to the yard to, where the trash pickup is. And instead of cleaning up everything, we just grabbed all of the bikes and things around and put them in the car.
Yeah.
And we're like, then they won't blow away. They'll be in the car. They'll be safe. Which now looking back, it's funny that now we have like a bunch of those things that were in the front yard, like the, uh, trucks that were like half broken. And anyway, they survived because that was the way we cleaned up that day. Instead of bringing them into the garage or something, we just put them in the car and headed off to work. Um, so, so 6:30, my wife heads over to try to get her parents safe. The fire is in their backyard, and her dad hadn't gotten into our car in probably the last 3 years, because he's wheelchair bound. And so she got there, fought past the firefighters to actually get to their house,
Yeah.
to get him into the car, and then tried to get the wheelchair into our car.
Yeah.
But the trunk was full of all the bikes and things that we had cleaned up from the wind that day. So we made it work, got them in. They all got safely back to our place to kind of decide what to do. And then they found a hotel out in Arcadia. So they all went there. I stayed home, got, the dishes put away, got the kids to sleep. Our friend who had come over to play video games or board games, our friend who had come to play board games, took our extra car
Mhm.
and drove down to meet them at the hotel.
Okay.
Make sure they'd have a car there after my wife dropped them off. And so then I got everybody to sleep, packed up some stuff just in case.
Mhm.
At the time, I was pregnant as a surrogate. So the one thing we were worried about was the smoke damage or the smoke around. So I packed everything up and then put it all by the door and was like, wait a second, I'm supposed to rest. I never rest enough. So I finally sat down, and that's when I could see the fire. And realized I probably shouldn't rest. But first I was going to go and text because I'm so used to texting my wife about everything. But the internet had just gone down and the cell service was down. So we still had power. We had power all the way through the next day. But at that point, I realized that, you know, just how little I'm ever disconnected from everybody. In this world, we never can't talk to people we love or make decisions totally on our own. And I felt very isolated in that minute. So I kind of thought to myself, didn't have a car with any car seats, but our friend had left their car. They had just got back from a road trip. So they have a minivan, but all the seats were down. And I was like, okay. And I had their keys. So I was like, I'll pack up the car with all the stuff and then figure out what to do next. So I was like, one step at a time. And that has been true the last few months.
Yeah.
But I got all the stuff into the car, and as I was loading the last, pack and play, and so the baby'd have somewhere to sleep, my neighbor came out and was like, dude, answer your wife's calls. Like, dude, I'd love to talk to my wife. Do you have your phone? Come on, Earl. And so he went back into the house, grabbed a phone, and then I could talk to Val and be like, my phone doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And they were on their way back.
Wait, so he had a landline?
He had a cell phone. His carrier still worked. I don't know how his worked and mine didn't, but it just happened that way.
Yeah.
So I could talk to her, and we kind of made a plan because they were trying to drive across town, but she was driving through where Victory Park is. Yeah. And the fire was like shooting out at different parts. So they kept having to turn around and backtrack, and nothing felt safe at all. So she's like, if I can even get to you, we're on our way. And I was like, yes. And at this point, most of the neighbors were out on the streets. We were all watching the fire being like, yeah, this is not feeling great. So a lot of us, or all the ones with kids, ended up leaving that night before any of the evacuation warnings came, obviously. So at that point I said, well, I'll wait about 20 minutes and then I'll just, the two dogs, so I'll have them in the car ready to go, and I'll just hold the 2-year-old and have the 5-year-old in the front seat, and we'll just drive south. Yeah. Until we get service or until we can meet you. So actually getting to talk to her felt much better because then I knew in 20 minutes I'll leave and we can meet up at, one of our friends' houses in South Pass. Mm-hmm. So we had a plan and I could finish packing things up. I went back in the house. I cleaned everything because you'd hate to come back to a house that's dirty. Yeah. I always love getting back from a trip. So I was like, we'll be gone for like 3 days in an Airbnb was what I was thinking. So I'll bring all the toys we need for that. I brought, 2 pairs of clothes and a PJs for everybody. Actually forgot any clothes for myself. So I was wearing just my work clothes, which are actually these clothes. There's a funny story about that. That the next day waking up at our friend's house, I was like, I have one shirt. Yeah. Like I don't need to wear my flamingo shirt as we get further away from the fire. Sure. So I borrowed a Boys to Men shirt from her, and I just wore this one Boys to Men Hollywood Bowl shirt for the next 2 weeks, basically, until I got more clothes. But I was 8 months pregnant, so I wasn't going to go shopping anytime soon. So anyway, so I had everything packed, everything's in the car, went through cleaning the house, doing all the dishes. And then I looked around at the walls and thought, I could take 1 or 2 of these paintings. Right? We have a painting somebody did of our house that felt really important. A friend of mine passed away a few years ago, so seeing her art being like, that could be really good. But I thought to myself, the direct quote is, don't be so dramatic. We're all going to get back. Just leave the walls be. And I actually went around and I was like, I'll just take pictures because I'm sappy. So I was like, I'll take pictures of everything, which has been helpful with insurance pieces. So I took all the pictures and then I started to wake up our kids. And they all had shoes on, and I was, we were heading towards the door when my wife and our friend came back home. So that was perfectly timed. We got into the car with car seats, and then she drove us away and our friend followed in their car with all of our stuff. But it was, as we started to drive and saw all the different cars that just abandoned places, and the fire was not on this side, on the west side of Lake yet, but it was getting close. Yeah. So I was really grateful to not be trying to drive with a kid and all of it. I don't like to drive anyway, so I'm really glad I could just be a passenger that night. We made it to our friend's house, and that was probably around 9:30 or 10. And then the kids were luckily pretty asleep still. And they were kind of freaking out as we got them in the car. We're like, here, just drink a pouch.
Yeah.
I think they both fell asleep in the like 10 minutes it took us to get out of Altadena.
Yeah.
And then that night we stayed there. The morning we woke up and I mean, the car was still covered in ash. I mean, we weren't far enough by any stretch. And so we ended up getting an Airbnb. And in the morning, all I could think about was like, with the fires looked like everywhere on watch duty. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be too far away from Arcadia, where my wife's parents were, but I also don't want to be too close to anything that's green on the map, like any foothills, because who knows where this is going next. And so I got us an Airbnb in Bellflower, because it was the furthest from anything green I could possibly find in the city.
Be a cheaper Bellflower.
Yeah, it's not a lot of green.
No, not a lot. It's a lot of cement.
Exactly. So it was the perfect Airbnb. It had an extra bedroom because we brought a friend or two of us with us for the weekend. And then we stayed there all the way till Friday. But the next day we were at an indoor playground with the kids, and a friend, actually one of the fathers of the kid that I was carrying at the time, had gone up to check on their house and drove by ours just to be sure and saw it on fire. And so we got confirmation early, which is in a way a real blessing, because I feel a lot of our friends evacuated and didn't know if their house was standing or not for a week or two. So we got to know on Wednesday, and having heard different stories since, it didn't catch fire until about 11:30 on Wednesday morning. And then it burned for almost 40 hours. So it just kept going for a long time. But we got that call and a picture that morning, and he did not want to make the call, but I was so glad to just know.
Yeah.
So we sat there kind of thinking about stuff for a little bit, and like, what are we going to do? And then realizing it's a long haul to answer that question.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine works for Hulu, so we called him and said, hey, we're right near Disney. Can you get us tickets? And so instead of doing anything valuable, we put an insurance claim in already, but we took the family to Disney the next day. Just had fun.